Trapped upside down in a 10-inch wide narrow passage within a cave for a harrowing 27 hours, what began as an exciting caving expedition for John Edward Jones with his family became a desperate struggle for survival. This is the story of John Jones and the Nutty Putty Cave disaster. On November 24, 2009, John Edward Jones and his family and friends visited the treacherous Nutty Putty Cave, located in the heart of the Utah desert. Its dark and winding passageways had claimed the curiosity of countless explorers over the years. John, a 26-year-old with a passion for adventure and a dream of becoming a pediatric cardiologist, was accompanied by his brother Josh and their father on many caving adventures. Despite considering themselves experienced cavers, John hadn't been caving much since getting married, having a 1-year-old daughter, and with a second child expected in June, while also being a medical student at the University of Virginia. During the Thanksgiving holiday, John returned home to visit family, planning a day trip filled with hiking and a dive into the Nutty Putty Cave. From 1999 to 2004, 6 people had become stuck in Nutty Putty's panic-inducing tunnels. The 3 tightest squeezes, the Helmet Eater, the Scout Eater, and the Birth Canal, earned ominous nicknames due to these incidents. Authorities closed the cave in 2006, seeing its dangers. In May 2009, the caving organization Timpanogos Grotto set up an online reservation system for Nutty Putty, allowing only one group to explore at a time. Despite this system, many found the cave challenging and often required rescue, leading authorities to implement a permit-style system requiring at least 2 experienced cavers per group. Fortunately for the Jones brothers, Josh and John were fit for the job. Many considered Nutty Putty a beginner's cave, with sections like the Big Room and the Maze being easy to navigate. The final hurdle, a 70-foot vertical drop, known as the Birth Canal, tested courage and skill. Even experienced cavers often got stuck, leading to panic and fear. Nutty Putty's narrow passageways and aptly named sections quickly became a well-known marvel among explorers. As they navigated tight squeezes and expansive rooms, the thrilling underground journey promised excitement. However, a terrifying event would soon change everything. It was a chilly Tuesday, just before Thanksgiving. The brothers, accompanied by family and friends, ventured deep into Nutty Putty Cave. What started as a routine caving trip soon took an unforeseen twist. The group explored a large chamber called the Big Slide. Later, John, Josh, and 2 friends broke off to find a more challenging passage known as the Birth Canal. They split up, wriggling into alcoves and passages to look for it. Excitedly, John took the lead, choosing a waist-high hold to explore, squeezing through the tight confines. But what awaited him on the other side was far from expected. John believed he was in the Birth Canal, but had taken a wrong turn, entering an unmapped section of the cave near Ed's Push. Within minutes, he realized his mistake. He saw what he thought was a larger opening and tried to squeeze in head first, pushing with his hips, stomach, and fingers. However, he found himself stuck with no room to turn around and unable to wriggle back. Pressing forward seemed the only option. He saw an opening dropping nearly straight down, appearing to widen at the bottom, offering a spot to turn around. But he had made a mistake and done something cavers are taught not to do. Despite his experiences, John went head first into a tight spot, going downward. To fit and slide over a lip of rock, John exhaled the air in his lungs. But when his chest expanded again, he was stuck. Struggling to free himself only made him slide deeper into an even narrower section. With one arm pinned underneath him and the other forced backward by an outcropping of rock, John found himself helplessly wedged upside down at a daunting 70-degree angle. Trapped below ground, John's caving instincts kicked in, trying to remain calm. But as time passed, his hope dwindled, and the walls seemed to close in. He struggled to free himself from a space no bigger than a monitor. Realizing his struggle against gravity was futile, he shouted for his brother. Josh, realizing John's perilous situation, scrambled quickly through the muddy walls, desperate to free him. He attempted the same route, but going feet first. But the cave had other plans, pulling John deeper with every attempt. Josh reached his brother's location. seeing his feet flailing and realizing how serious the situation was. Determined not to give up, Josh made several attempts to free him and prayed together, but he soon realized they needed professional help. Wasting no time, Josh exited the cave. As hours turned into an agonizing wait, John was at the cave's mercy. The downward angle of his trap placed significant stress on his body, requiring his heart to work exceptionally hard to pump blood. Around midnight, local rescue volunteer Susie arrived, introducing herself and keeping John company as they waited for the rescue team. The situation grew increasingly dire, and the obstacles more daunting. John had endured over 3 hours upside down, experiencing more discomfort than outright pain. Rescuers brainstormed ways to free John, considering lubing the cave walls, drilling through rock, and using a rope pulley system. But the cave's narrowness and John's upside-down position made it extremely difficult. The narrow cave system made bringing tools nearly impossible, and only small, wiry rescuers could maneuver through the tight spaces. Adding complexity, only one person could be with John at a time, making a quick rescue even more challenging. Exhaustion set in, and with John's arms immobilized and his legs unable to help, it became a race against time. With each passing hour, John's physical and mental state deteriorated. His organs pressed against his lungs, making breathing harder. Despite his experiences, he began to thrash and panic. The rescue team worked tirelessly through the night, but they came to a horrible realization. The angle of the tunnel meant they couldn't bend John's body backward without likely having to break his legs, which could potentially kill him in his weakened state. Yet, in a heartwarming moment, rescuers managed to connect John with his wife through a two-way cable radio, providing a glimmer of comfort. Finally, the breakthrough came. The rescue workers decided to install a pulley system anchored to the tunnel's walls with climbing cams to pull John out. With 8 men working in perfect tandem, they began the challenging task of pulling him up. Each pull caused excruciating pain due to the highly sensitive nerves in his legs, but they pushed through, inch by agonizing inch. After 19 hours, John couldn't move his legs to help, and they considered breaking them to free him. But things seemed to be progressing slowly. Then, disaster struck. As the team pulled, the rope snapped. A stone arch holding the rope shattered, and the nearest key bolt broke off, hitting John's closest rescuer, Ryan, in the face. The entire team fell backward, and John slid deeper into the crevice. With Ryan seriously injured and exhausted, a new rescuer took his place. Tension rose as they desperately tried to reach John again. He was now completely unresponsive. The clock was ticking, and the odds seemed stacked against them. Dave, Ryan's father, spent an hour re-establishing the pulley system. While trying to tie the rope back onto John, he got himself stuck for nearly 15 minutes. Eventually freeing himself, Dave found John barely breathing and unresponsive. John had gone into cardiac arrest. Rescuers gathered near Ed's push to discuss their options. A medical professional would need to determine if John had passed away. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, John was pronounced dead. The heartbreaking reality sunk in, and the rescuers were forced to leave empty-handed. Around 137 rescuers worked tirelessly for 27 grueling hours, facing their most formidable challenge. Despite their dedication and bravery, retrieving John's body from the treacherous cave was too risky. Nutty Putty Cave became John's eternal resting place, after authorities realized that attempting to pull his body out would endanger more lives. In the aftermath, the cave was permanently closed to the public and sealed with concrete, its secrets and dangers forever hidden. John's family ensured his memory lived on, placing a plaque at the cave entrance as a testament to his life and the sacrifices made to rescue him. Despite heroic rescue efforts, they couldn't free John, leaving behind a legacy that serves as a reminder of the allure. In 2014, 5 Finnish men entered the Plura cave system in the Plura Valley, Norway. Over several horrifying hours, only 3 resurfaced. The remaining 2 were left to fight for their lives in the dark underwater cave. Descending to a depth of 130 meters, they had no idea of the deadly danger awaiting them. At the Faculty of Truth, we will break down the events of that tragic day, known as the Plura cave diving tragedy. Plura, the deepest cave system in Norway and Northern Europe, attracts cave divers who enjoy exploring. It's a popular destination, but not all underwater routes are safe or well explored. Despite its risks, Plura is accessible year-round. The water is clear but extremely cold in Norwegian winters, with the surface of Lake Plura even freezing over. Nevertheless, Plura draws divers eager to explore its mysteries. Tourists appreciate its colorful caves, and beginners dive in the shallower areas to enjoy the cave fauna and formations. However, well-trained and curious divers venture into the narrow, dark, and freezing passages, facing tight spaces and irregular surfaces that can cause entrapment. On February 6, 2014, two Finnish divers carved a triangular hole in the ice covering Lake Plura and slipped into the water. They descended swiftly, wrapped in waterproof dry suits and carrying hefty diving gear. After 2 hours, 3 more men joined them, heading towards Steinugelflaget. Before the dive, the Finnish men gathered at the Ohamo mine west of Helsinki to plan. Though there was no designated leader, Patrick Grankvist, part of the trio that discovered the passage the year before, took the lead, confident the dive would go smoothly. This dive tested the limits of an already dangerous sport. Amateur divers typically limit themselves to half-hour to hour-long dives at 30 meters depth. However, this expedition, aided by underwater scooters, extended to about 5 hours, reaching depths beyond 130 meters. The deeper they went, the riskier the navigation became. Cold water and narrow tunnels posed constant dangers, while sharp rocks could cause fatal injuries. Prolonged dives at these depths increased the risk of equipment failure or hypercapnia, carbon dioxide poisoning. Cave divers rely on rebreathers, which absorb the carbon dioxide they exhale, requiring a regulated and steady breathing pattern. Failure to do so can lead to dangerous levels of carbon dioxide, causing confusion and disorientation. About an hour into the dive, Patrick Grankvist and Jari Huotar navigated through the deepest section, approximately 110 meters below the cave entrance. Patrick noticed his friend was missing, and upon returning, found Jari entangled in a cord connected to his gear. It is believed Jari turned into a wrong passage, realized his mistake, and began pushing himself out but got entangled. He signaled distress to Patrick, showing signs of pain and panic, risking hypercapnia. Patrick handed him a gas cylinder to reduce carbon dioxide intake, but during the mouthpiece switch, Jari inhaled water, drowning despite Patrick's attempts to save him. Fearful for his own life, Patrick slowed his breathing to avoid hypercapnia. Unable to free Jari, Patrick proceeded to Steinugelflaget, facing decompression sickness, also known as the bends, which occurs when ascending too quickly, causing nitrogen bubbles to form in the bloodstream. Symptoms include pain, dizziness, fatigue, and severe cases of neurological or cardiovascular issues. Having spent an extra half hour at 110 meters, Patrick faced hours of decompression stops before safely surfacing. The thought of resurfacing without Jari's body filled him with dread, especially knowing the second team would soon encounter the scene. Visa Rannan, leading the second team, was the first to find Jari Huotar's body. He chose to press forward, losing additional time and increasing his decompression stops. After surfacing, Visa felt intense pain from decompression sickness. The fourth diver, Jari Usumaki, panicked upon finding the body, overloading his rebreather with carbon dioxide and drowned just 20 meters from Huotar. The fifth diver, Kai Kinen, tried to help but couldn't free Jari. Kai decided to retrace his route and surfaced after almost 11 hours, breaking through a thin layer of ice. All 3 survivors ended up in the hospital with decompression sickness. Local authorities collected their statements and initiated a complicated rescue plan. 2 weeks later, a rescue diver from the UK named Rick Stanton and 2 others prepared for a rescue mission, but concluded that recovering Jari Huotar's body was too risky. Norwegian police called off the recovery. Determined to honor the unspoken rule in diving that no diver is left behind, Patrick Grankvist promised Jari Huotar's wife he would find a way to recover the bodies. Patrick and his companions, including another diver named Pakarinen, planned a secret recovery mission. Confident from their previous dives, they aimed to avoid underwater panic and prevent another tragedy. On March 22, 2014, a team of 27 divers gathered at Plura. 2 support teams operated in the shallower cave areas, while Grankvist, Pekarinen, and Kanan descended to recover the bodies. Visa Ranin, recovering from a spinal injury due to decompression sickness, managed the surface operations. After descending about 85 meters, Kanan returned, not in the right frame of mind. Pekarinen and Grankvist continued, passing the bodies of Jari Usumaki and Jari Huotar. They managed to release the bodies and maneuver them through the narrow cave, towing them to the surface. The Norwegian authorities pointed out rule violations during the operation. Memorial services were conducted for both men, giving the surviving divers a chance to mourn their losses properly. On the evening of March 22, 1959, a group of young cavers, including 20-year-old Oxford undergrad Neil Moss, gathered at the entrance of Peak Cavern in Derbyshire, England. Moss, passionate about cave exploration and a member of the British Speleological Association, had eagerly volunteered to explore a newly discovered shaft. What was ahead in the depths of the cave? The air was thick with anticipation and unease as they descended into the darkness, unaware that this expedition would turn into one of the most challenging cave rescues in history, the descent into Peak Cavern. The day began with high spirits and anticipation as the 8 cavers equipped themselves with ropes, lamps, helmets, and other necessary caving materials. Their destination was an unexplored chamber, 1,000 feet from the cave entrance. The journey required navigating tight passageways, crawling through muddy tunnels, and overcoming rough, jagged rocks. Upon reaching the chamber, Moss and his companions marveled at its beauty. They prepared to explore the 40-foot deep shaft discovered 2 weeks prior. Moss, slender and enthusiastic, believed he could navigate the narrow passage. His companions provided him with a 75-foot ladder and cautioned him about a twisted section of the shaft, the descent and the dilemma. At around 3:30 p.m., Moss began his descent, lowering the ladder ahead of him. He encountered the first challenge at the corkscrew twist, but managed to push through, reaching a 10-foot horizontal passageway. Crawling through, he faced an 18-foot vertical drop, excited to be the first to explore it. However, a large boulder blocked his path at the bottom. Attempting to dislodge it, Moss became stuck with the ladder beneath him. Realizing he couldn't lift his feet to climb back up, Moss tried to remain calm. He called for help, and his companions attempted to pull him up, using the ladder. But it got stuck. A rope was tossed down. But every effort to pull him up failed, with the ropes breaking against the sharp rocks. The situation became dire as the air quality deteriorated due to carbon dioxide buildup. The rescue efforts. The rescue mission escalated quickly. Volunteers from all over England, including the Royal Air Force, Navy, police, and various caving groups, arrived to help. The polluted air made it difficult for rescuers to reach Moss, with many losing consciousness and having to be dragged out. Ron Peters managed to tie a rope around Moss, but pulling it tightened around his chest, making breathing harder. Oxygen tanks were brought in, providing some relief, but the attempts to free Moss continued unsuccessfully. On the morning of March 23rd, 18-year-old typist June Bailey arrived, small enough to navigate the tight space. She reached Moss but had to retreat due to the foul air. The final hours. Despite continuous efforts, including pumping compressed air to clear the toxic air and smoothing the walls of the shaft, Moss remained stuck. Heavy rain added to the challenges, flooding parts of the cave and forcing rescuers to retreat temporarily. By the night of March 23rd, rescuers could no longer hear Moss breathing. An RAF doctor confirmed Moss's death at approximately 3 a.m. on March the 24th. Neil Moss's father, Eric, who had been waiting at the cave entrance, decided against further rescue attempts to avoid endangering more lives. The shaft became Moss's final resting place, sealed with loose rocks. The chamber was later named Moss Chamber in his honor, and an inscription was made nearby. The tragic story of Neil Moss remains a poignant reminder of the dangers of cave exploration. His bravery and the relentless efforts of his rescuers have been commemorated in books, articles, and documentaries. The Peak Cavern incident continues to be a significant event in caving history, symbolizing both the spirit of exploration and the risks involved. In the depths of a cavern so treacherous that few dare to enter, one man, driven by an insatiable curiosity, made a fatal decision. Sergei Kosev, a seasoned explorer, ventured into the heart of the Veryovkina cave, the world's deepest, armed with little more than hope and determination. The whispers of the cave's dark secrets had always called to him, but this time something felt different. The man behind the tragedy. Sergei Kosev was a devoted husband and father of two, living a seemingly ordinary life in Sochi, Russia. On the morning of November 1st, 2020, Sergei said goodbye to his family, leaving them unaware of the perilous journey he was about to undertake. He drove off, keeping his destination a secret, not even hinting at the challenge he had set for himself: the exploration of the daunting Vovkina Cave in Abkhazia. The daunting challenge, Vovkina Cave. The Vovkina Cave, located in the rugged terrain of Abkhazia, Georgia, is one of the deepest known caves in the world, plunging over 7,200 feet into the earth. This cave is a perilous labyrinth, filled with narrow passageways that squeeze the life out of even the most seasoned explorers. The temperatures inside hover just above freezing, with near total darkness and suffocating humidity that make every breath a struggle. A dangerous overconfidence. Despite his limited experience, Serge was an athlete in peak physical condition. He regularly participated in marathons and other grueling athletic events, but his experience with caving was minimal. Driven by overconfidence and the thrill of the unknown, Serge decided to tackle Vovkina Cave alone, with minimal preparation, the descent into darkness. After a long, solitary drive to Abkhazia, Sergei parked his car in a remote location and began the trek to the cave's entrance. With only a small map and screenshots of the cave layout on his phone, Serge descended into the darkness. He reached the first permanent camp, located 2,000 feet below the surface, where he spent a week resting and gathering his strength. The cave turns against him. As Serge continued his descent to a depth of 3,600 feet, the cave began to turn against him. Rising water levels, a deadly sign of the storm brewing above the ground, began to flood the passageways, trapping Serge in the cold, wet darkness. His inadequate equipment failed him as hypothermia set in, robbing him of his strength and clarity. The final struggle for survival. Panic set in as Serge realized the severity of his situation. His last hope of escape, a frayed rope and an old harness, was slipping away with every agonizing moment. His muscles, once his greatest asset, now betrayed him. Each attempt to climb back up was met with failure. Exhaustion overwhelmed him, and Serge's once sharp mind became clouded by the cold. The tragic discovery. When Serge did not return home, his wife reported him missing. For 9 agonizing months, there was no trace of him. Then on August 4th, 2021, a group of seasoned explorers made a chilling discovery. At a depth of over 3,000 feet, they found a rope, Serge's rope, leading them to a gruesome scene. Serge's lifeless body lay curled up, his remains decomposing in the damp, cold cave. The grim retrieval operation. The retrieval of Serge's body posed a horrific challenge. The cave's narrow, winding passages made it impossible to extract the body in one piece. With the approval of his family, a team of 27 professionals embarked on the harrowing task of dismembering Serge's remains for transport. The team spent 4 grueling days descending into the cave, cutting Serge's body into 10 pieces and hauling the remains through the tight squeezes and treacherous terrain. Sergei Kosev's story is a tragic reminder of the dangers that lurk in the depths of the earth. His death was not only a result of his inadequate equipment, but also of a decision to venture into the unknown without the necessary preparation or support. While the story ends in tragedy, it serves as the powerful warning to others. The pursuit of adventure must always be balanced with respect for the forces of nature that lie in wait. If you found Sergei Kosev's story as gripping and tragic as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join me on my channel, where we delve into the stories of those who dared to explore the most dangerous places on Earth and paid the ultimate price. This is Sam, and together we'll uncover the truth behind the world's most harrowing disasters.